we can go right ahead and talk about OG Anunoby, who is back after being injured for 3 weeks. He ended up needing to undergo surgery. However, that surgery was the quickest way for him to recover. And immediately after he comes back from his injury, he provides impact to the New York Knicks and winning this game against the 76ers. Now, if you remember in some of my previous NBA recaps, I was talking about the Sixers going up against the Knicks and how they played in one of the lowest scoring games of the season, actually the lowest scoring game of the season, where the Sixers ended up scoring 79 points while the Knicks only scored 73. And I mentioned how they did not have some key players to contribute assist them in trying to make this game a little bit more competitive. And nobody was knocking down shots. Well, in this game, the Knicks were knocking down shots. OG Anunoby, he ended the game with 14 points. He's not that good of a player on offense. However, he is very valuable on the defensive side of the ball. And him being back obviously bolstered the team, and it made the team a lot better than what they usually are. Makes sense because he's a contributing player. The final score was 106-79. Now, if you notice, the Sixers, they ended up scoring the exact same amount of points as they did in their win. However, the Knicks ended up completely outplaying them and scoring 106 points, which is about 33 more points than they initially did. So obviously, the addition of OG Anunoby is putting this Knicks team back on the right track. And now that OG is back, there needs to be now they're just waiting on Julius Randle. And the scoring for the rest of the team, nothing really stands out. It was more of a team effort in beating the Sixers than it was like, oh, Jalen Brunson ended the game with 35 or DiVincenzo ended the game with 29, like most of the games. However, I'm not saying that the Villanova brothers didn't perform. Now, Jalen Brunson ended the game 7 of 12 from the field. Josh Hart ended the game 8 of 16 from the field. And DiVincenzo ended the game 4 for 11. So, combined, Brunson ended with 20. Josh Hart ended with 20. DiVincenzo ended with 16. So, they ended the game with 56 points. That is well over half of the team's scoring. So, and I almost forgot about this. Josh Hart was just 4 rebounds, 2 rebounds. I can't do math. He was 1 rebound shy of getting a 20-20 game. He ended the game with 20 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. Now, in his first 4 seasons of the NBA, he was unable to get a single triple-double. However, on the Knicks, he's gotten 4 in 18 games. So, with this in mind, coming in from Josh Hart, he's doing all of the dirty work. If he is sort of their Draymond Green type of player. He's with a little bit more scoring added to the mix. And I don't want to say that in a way that, oh, Draymond Green doesn't score. Now he doesn't score. Before, when in around 2015, 2014, 2016, again, those years are random, I understand. 2014, 2015, 2016, in those years, Draymond Green was a scorer. He was able to put the ball on the floor and he was able to score. Obviously, he was more of a facilitator. He's always been a facilitator and he's always filled that role to the T. However, he was also a scorer back then. People forget that Draymond Green played in Game 7 of the NBA Finals against LeBron and dropped 35 points, while Stephen Curry dropped only 16 points. A lot of people forget about that. A lot of people forget about Draymond scoring, but I digress. So he is their type. That is the type of player that he is. He is a Draymond Green, someone who is willing to do all of the dirty work and someone who is willing to hustle and to get back on defense, to do all sorts of things. If a team needs a shot on offense, he will be there. If a team needs a passer, he'll be there. Team needs to get boards, he'll also be there. He's one of those players. And as a team that is contending, you want one of those players on your team. That is one of the best players you could have. Like, someone who's willing to do everything else for the team, because they already have the 2 good scorers. Well, technically, they already have 3 good scorers, because I didn't account for Julius Randle coming back. So Julius Randle comes back, that's 1 scorer. Jalen Brunson's already there, 2 scorers, and DiVincenzo, 3 scorers right there. These guys can each go off, dropping at least 30 points, and it's still, while they lack defense, those 3 players, they still have other players on the team that could play the defense for them, and even substitute in, like Bogdanovic, and score as well. Now, Bogdanovic is a little bit of a bad example in this game, because he did end the game 0 for 2 from the field, and did not have a single point, playing 22 minutes, by the way. However, players like McBride and Precious Achiuwa, again, forgive me if I botched that last name, I just call him Precious most of the time, ends the game with like a decent 13 points, then you're good with the scoring. Like, you can't even be mad at players who, like, consistently average players. You cannot be mad at consistently average players, because if they constantly drop 13 points every single game, those 2 players get at least 13 points every single game, they're in a good spot, because their role is not entirely to score. That's Jalen Brunson's role, that's DiVincenzo's role, etc. Those players, those are the scorers. Now, with the Sixers, on the other hand, I really think that they should just terminate the season. Like, they should not wait until Joel Embiid gets back, because he might rush, like, from his injury, and that might end up being worse for the organization as a whole, because despite my opinions on Joel Embiid, it really seems like this team needs Joel Embiid in order to do something. And right now they're fighting for a play-in spot with the 7th seed. And assuming that all of these teams, like the Miami Heat, they all keep playing like how they've been playing, it really seems like they're going to get on the bottom end of those play-in games. Now, obviously, if Joel Embiid returns and they have a late season surge because of Joel Embiid, that could work. But then again, they're putting themselves in an increasingly more difficult spot to make it far in the playoffs, because they'd be the 6th seed at most, if they are still in the playoffs. They'll be the 6th seed going up against the 5th seed, or vice versa. Really doesn't, actually no, the 6th seed going up against the 3rd seed, excuse me, that was my bad, or a 5th seed going up against the 4th seed. And these are situations that you don't really want to put Joel Embiid in, because they're known for not making it past the 2nd round, and they need that high seed. They need all the advantage that they can get. And even with that high seed, they still aren't reliable. But I digress. They need to wait for Joel Embiid to return, and I don't think that's going to come. That shouldn't be rushed, and it shouldn't come this season, because the Boston Celtics, they already outplay Philly every single time. You can look at all of the playoff series that Boston has played against Philly. They always win. It's just something that happens. It's like, it always happens. Joel Embiid just cannot beat the Celtics. They are his kryptonite, and it fits because the Celtics are green. So, with all of this in mind, and I don't see a point in Joel Embiid returning for this season. And I mean, there's still a chance that he could lose, that they could beat the Bucks. I will say that if they do match up against the Bucks in the playoffs, maybe they'll beat them. Maybe. You guys know how I feel about Doc Rivers, so maybe they'll beat him. But I don't want to touch on Doc Rivers this moment, because I probably will touch on him. I probably will talk about him tomorrow or another day after that, if they end up losing to the Sixers without Joel Embiid, because the Bucks and the Sixers, they play Joel Embiid. Well, not Joel Embiid. They play the Sixers tomorrow, not today. They play tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So we will see if the Bucks can end up pulling through without needing to deal with Joel Embiid. Should make the job a little bit easier. And with that, we are out of time for this second segment. So now we are going to go into our third segment, where we do a quick recap of all the NBA games that went down. And later, I'm going to reveal exactly what the fourth segment of the show is, because there is that fourth segment. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the first segment. I hope I did. But we still have... I really think you guys are going to like the fourth segment, because it's going to be talking about... I'm not going to talk about much, but it's going to be talking about an old head in quotes, and his opinions on a certain basketball player. If you guys have been paying attention to the news, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But if not, I'll reveal that towards the end of the third show segment right after this break.